Hello everyone, and welcome to the Commexis Cast Daily, all the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. I'm Matthew McGroarty, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis, and today I am joined by the lead strategist at Commexis, Phillip.
Good morning.
And the president of Commexis, Len Ward.
Good morning.
So our first story today, on Business Wire, there was a digital transformation survey press release that came out by Grant Thorton LLP in partnership with CFO Research, and it was about digital transformation. So this survey surveyed 300 CFOs and business leaders on digital transformation, and here are some interesting stats that we found. So more than 2/3, about 69% of CFOs and senior financial executives planning to increase their investment in technologies that speed business change, and then also 4 in 10 of those financial leaders plan to increase more than 10% in the next 12 months. 41% of financial leaders also indicate that their company's digital transformation investments are meant to help them overtake their competition through differentiation. I think that stat is kind of obvious. I mean, obviously, you want to be using these technologies both for user experience, but also to gain an edge of some kind. And just over 40% reveal that they do not have good financial metrics that show the ROI in IT efforts, and only 12% agree that they have an effective system of measuring financial performance associated with technology implementation. So we have a couple more stats that we're going to mention, but let's start with this. What do we think?
Well, I think, as with any type of investment in new technology, you're going to have questions about the ROI and the long-term ROI of it. But I think that, we've seen how putting the user first and emphasizing the buyer's journey really, it shows the effectiveness that it can bring for you by making, better long-term relationships with your clients, better conversion rates, and just for the long term, reducing churn. You're keeping people within the funnel and keeping them coming back. I think that it's early on that, so yes, some of that data is lacking, but I think that common sense tells us that this is investment that's going to help improve your customer retention.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think this is, it's basically you're developing processes and strategies that now are in line with today's buyer. And I really don't care what kind of business you're in, you have some sort of end buyer. The end of the game, or the end of the day, your thing is to convert. So digital transformation, like we've talked about quite a few times, there's a lot of different components to it. There is a very heavy technology component with your own infrastructure, CRMs and so forth. Our world, there's a marketing component to it that needs to be done where again, it's very simple. There's a lot of businesses who maybe have not engaged in live chat. There's a lot of businesses who don't have any type of Salesforce or HubSpot or any type of way to track clients. Marketing automation, like email automation. All of these things are things that we'll talk about on the podcast over the course of the year, but these are all the types of things that businesses are slowly but surely, getting in the water and agreeing to, but there is a lot of moving parts. I have a concern, and I'll say it, I said I wasn't going to say it, but I have a concern of what companies are putting in charge of certain things. I don't think chief investment officers or CFOs should be making marketing decisions, maybe from a financial standpoint, but I think marketing people should be leading the digital transformation for your marketing strategy, and I think your investment officers should be, along with the CFOs, should be making decisions on technology. But I do think the CFO needs to know from a financial standpoint everything that's going on, but the critical thing to making a digital transformation thing work is putting the right people in place, experienced people in place. And if you're a large enough company going through this, my recommendation is going out and hiring somebody, not naming somebody internally to do this, but hiring somebody who's done this before, because that is going to save you money in the long run. I'm off my soapbox.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that just to kind of put a bow on this, I just want to say that for the ROI portion of it is, you're talking about trying to define ROI when you don't actually fully understand the attribution of all of your marketing models in a digital transformation, in a pre-digital transformation. So once you have those pieces in place, you can fully track the buyer's journey from beginning to end, and then you'll have a much better understanding of the amount of money you're spending per lead, of your cost per thousand, of getting people in there. So you're kind of worrying about something that you don't even have enough information to make a decision on anyway. So I think that it's more important to get those kinds of metrics in place so you can really then determine the ROI, because then you can really determine the difference between what's a digital lead and what's coming in through more traditional means, and you can then really see the disparate amount of which one's working better for you and where to throw your investment money behind. So
yeah, absolutely. In in the press release, there was a stat that goes along with what you said, that a lot of CFOs and financial leaders, about 90% of them admitted to needing stronger skills in data analytics than they currently have. And I know you mentioned before the show that a lot of that was not only do they need stronger analytics skills, but they don't necessarily know what kind of analytics they need.
Yeah.
So they just have to have the right financial models to make decisions. I mean, CFOs are critical in this decision process because they're going to tell you what you're going to make money on and what you're not. But I do believe that those decisions should be based upon experienced individuals within this realm coming to the CFO saying, this is why we need it, this is the cost savings we'll have going forward, opposed to just making digital transformation decisions based upon a dollar. I think that's crazy to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're not jumping blind into this thing. We should have enough data to be able to look at from other companies that are embracing this model to understand the value of it. We just don't have the specific numbers because we're jumping into industries and marketplaces where we don't have necessarily that experience in. But we can look at models from other industries or similar supply chain kinds of things. So retail, e-commerce, financials, whatever, to be able to at least give you some educated decision making and guesses that will let you make those decisions. So,
well, our second story for today, P&G, they're seeing a better attitude among some big digital players, but they are still cutting spending for these. So these are YouTube, Google, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And this is from Jack Neff on Ad Age. So Procter & Gamble is still cutting spending on big digital players by 20 to 50%, according to Chief Brand Officer Mark Pritchard. He said this in a speech to the Association of National Advertisers Media Conference in Orlando on Thursday. And the plan is to cut $1.2 billion in agency and production fees over 5 years. So there's one quote that I really enjoyed, and I think we should talk about in Neff's piece, and it's the way that P&G is using new data management platforms to sort of figure out how they're going to be doing some smarter demographic targeting. So they call it smart audiences, and they say that this covers about 80% of the U.S. population. And a smart audience, for example, would be something like first-time moms. And it says brands now reach 90% of these smart audiences, according to Pritchard. So he has a quote. Quote: "The Learning Lab is also helping us stop one of the most persistent mass marketing problems, annoying frequency," he said. "We asked ourselves, how often do our ads and behavioral science really need to be seen to be understood? And using proprietary cognitive and behavioral science, we confirmed that it is not rocket science to remember that bounty is the quick picker-upper, and if it's got to be clean, it's got to be tied." They combined this cognitive science with data analytics and found that the average ad frequency was about 3 ads to make somebody sort of remember these things. But if you look at a lot of the outliers, some people are seeing them 10 to 20 times in comparison to some others. So what do we think about this? I mean, I think obviously when you're 10 or 20 times is a barrage. That is insane.
Yeah, but here's what I want to say. What he says is 100% right, but he's also talking about, you can say it's the quicker picker-upper because you have Rosie at the diner and everybody, was that the one who did the commercials back then? 40 years of marketing and branding you've installed. If you are a new company or a new brand message, I think 10, 20 times is way too much, and I'm really interested in that 3 number. But the question is the 3 number one for established brands, and 10 to 20 is what you have to start off as a new brand? So while Pritchard obviously is a very, very intelligent individual, and I know that his stats are 100% right, I think that the caveat here is, yeah, you're right, for Ford and for General Motors, yes, and I think 3 is probably plenty. But for Mike Jones Landscaping Company, who's just trying to start out and get some lawns in Barrington, New Jersey, he's probably going to be up there 10 to 20 times on Facebook. So look at that with a grain of salt.
I think to me that the sound you just heard was the sound of David Ogilvy rolling over in his grave, because he's saying this goes against 50 years of advertising kind of just being told us and having drilled into our heads that we really need to maximize these impressions, get them out there, people. But I think Len's absolutely right. I mean, this isn't something in a vacuum. These are brands that are already well known in the marketplaces that they're in and already have extreme market share. So I think that to be able to take that step back is a luxury that most of these other businesses will not have. And I think that it speaks to the strength of the branding, and that not only does it work, with such fewer appearances, but it's worked for so long. I mean, how long have those ad slogans been in play? Got to be
a very long time.
At least
yeah.
the 70s.
I mean, it's not just those 3 times that you see them. We've all got them ingrained in our heads. I think if you were to start that, any one of us could finish the rest of the tagline.
Yeah.
So it's not like, that's not from the ad. That's from having it been, part of our subconscious for years and years and years on TV and things. So I don't know I think it's kind of a forest for the trees argument on Pritchard's part with this. I don't think he's too close to be able to see the advantage that he has on this to somebody just starting out.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't work.
Yeah, he's going with named products. I think going back to the buyer's journey, I think there are, again, if you are starting an advertising campaign, you have to map out the entire buyer's journey and figure out maybe this spot we only need to show it 3 times. Maybe this spot we only need to show it 5. This is definitely 20. I mean, these guys, again, they're going with 40, 50 years of data where, I mean, they're to the point, Tide doesn't even have to advertise.
No.
I mean, everybody knows Tide. I mean, so, so like I said, I think that it's a great story we're talking about. I like everything that he said. I'm very interested in the data, but I do think that if you are a mid-range company embarking on a campaign and have never done this before, do not take those stats and listen to them because they're wrong.
They use poor examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in checking out the rest of the Ad Age piece on P&G, it will be linked in our blog post description of the podcast, as well as the Grant Thornton LLP survey from on Business Wire will also be linked there as well. So thank everybody for tuning in to today's episode of the Commexis Cast Daily. Check us out next week for more of the latest trending news.
Have a great
day.
weekend.
Thanks.